And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Biddle. We're set up to have a talk around the virtual water cooler. We're going to talk about tech. Can be anything from Linux to open source, software related. Everything's on the table for discussion. I do want to first start off by thanking Rocco for starting the Biddle community, where I truly felt like the member of the nicest group of fantastic people with all kinds of things that teach me a lot. So, welcome everybody. Nice to see you, Eris, Colin, Schickel, Peter, Jinda, Vince. Nice to have you. Who knows? Maybe some more will pop on. So, has anybody been doing anything exciting in Linux this week? Yes, Schickel has. Well, do tell. Do tell the excitement.
So I did what you're not supposed to do, and I created a BTRFS RAID 5 array in my desktop.
Oh.
Yeah. So far it hasn't blown up, which I'm both happy about and disappointed by. But I just would like to point out how awesome it is that we have people who work on file systems. Like, it's such a complex thing to do. And the fact that they can create systems that handle data structures across multiple disks, and you can just rip one out and it does the math and keeps it all together. So if you put another disk in, it just patches it. So I tested that. I sacrificed one of the 4 drives in this array so I could distro hop on, not because I should, but because I like to distro hop. And I installed MX on it because that's what we were looking at. And I also installed PopOS on it. And afterwards, I put the disk back in the array. I just mounted it and it repaired itself and it's working flawlessly. So far, BTRFS RAID 5, still don't do it unless, you want to accept the risk, but it's pretty cool. Maybe try it. Not on anything important, but maybe try it.
Well, I think that's great that you actually tried that out to see if how it would go, because I mean, I'm very hesitant to just do things like that because it usually doesn't go well for me when I experiment. I mean, sometimes
Especially
it does.
because it's actually in production. I'm actually using this array too for
Yeah.
important stuff, so it's
So,
probably a little bit of a risk.
did you have like a lapse in judgment, and then Butterfest saved your tush? Is that kind of what happened?
I kind of like to think that all of it is a lapse in judgment, but then I get some parts right.
So we probably need to look at the change log and thank all those people that have been working on Butterfs for your computer not breaking.
Yeah, it's honestly, and it's really impressive. So yeah, props.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you shared that because that's a great story, and I think that's worth like a blog entry someplace of the things you shouldn't do that I did. That would be a great, highly clickbaity article that you could write and make people laugh.
Could write a whole series with that title.
Well, does anybody else have any terrible things that they've done to their computer?
Well, I am now using PipeWire. So
Oh,
yeah, I've been trying to get it to work on my Arco Linux system for months now, and there was just maybe a bit that I was missing or something like that, because I use Pulse effects for controlling a bit of my audio. Well, it used to be called Pulse effects, but they had to change the name now because it's now called Easy Effects, as the new version relies on PipeWire. So they couldn't really keep calling it Pulse effects anyway. So it's now called Easy Effects. But anyway, I guess that the ArchWiki must have updated some of their information in there, because I went and had a look again, and it works now. Whatever they did to change it, there's a few packages you need to install if you want to switch over. So if you're using Pulse Audio, or if you're using Jack, you can install little packages that'll maintain compatibility with all your applications. And once you've installed those, you have to activate a couple of services. And once that's going on, it's been working for me now. So some of the issues I had previously was I wasn't detecting some of my devices, like my microphone or my sound card. But now it just seems to be fine. So that's been great. I'm using Easy Effects now for the microphone. It allows me to have a noise gate. So if I have the kids just behind me outside my door running, screaming, and making a whole lot of noise, you can't hear them. Hopefully, so that's great. That's what I've been doing, and I'm been loving it.
Yeah, I guess was it How does it spell Easy Effects?
Just easy, like easy, EASY.
Okay. I wasn't sure. It was like EZFX or something like that.
You would expect maybe some nerds to make it like that, but they haven't. If you get a effects, it'll send you over to Easy Effects.
Okay. I don't know if I haven't checked in a while, but at least last time we started playing with PipeWire, they didn't have the new pulse effects in there, so I couldn't use it with PipeWire. But I'm using pulse effects here with pulse audio on this machine.
I'm guessing if you're on Tumbleweed, it should be there.
Should be, yeah, but I haven't checked. I'll do that at some point in time, maybe this week at some point. So that's good to know.
Fedora is going to be switching to PipeWire in the next release, right?
I think they did already, didn't they?
I think they did.
Yeah, they already have.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Is PipeWire supposed to be compatible with Wayland? Is that why this has been brought out, or?
It does fill in the gaps a little bit. So PipeWire also takes care of video routing as well. So at least with OBS Studio, you can use PipeWire for grabbing video, grabbing windows and so forth. That's what it uses, that framework. But PipeWire is a drop-in replacement for Pulse Audio. I haven't noticed any like latency differences. I know, Vince, have you noticed any latency differences?
I think I have. Just it's very, very slight, and you have to listen very carefully and watch very carefully to notice. But for me, I think I've noticed a slight quality improvement when I'm listening to things. Maybe that's just subjective. I have no idea, but I think I have.
So one more thing about PipeWire, it's a requirement for GNOME going forward.
Oh, that's good to know. I don't notice any like. I guess the highest praise I can give PipeWire is when I swap PipeWire out for Pulse on my laptop, not the system, but another system. I didn't notice anything. So that to me is the highest praise I can give it, because that means that moving forward, I won't notice any issues one way or the other. I don't know if anybody else had any exciting stories.
Well, not
of this week?
exactly Linux, but my system almost blew up.
Oh, what'd you do?
It was just over a week ago. I got a call from my work, from my wife. My mother-in-law was in panic at the house. I came back. She thought the house alarm was going off. Turns out it was actually my UPC. Oh, sorry, UPS, and the power system from APC. And so I checked it out. I turned it off. I turned it back on, and the massive blue sparks started happening from the machine. So I turned it back off, unplugged everything, turned all the devices off, got myself a little surge protector for the meantime, ordered myself a new UPS, and it's now installed. I'll put a link to my Twitter photo in the chat, and that was installed today, and it's all working great. So you need to protect your equipment.
Wow, that would be very disconcerting to see sparks flying out of your UPS that's supposed to keep you safe.
Yeah, and my Filio was plugged into it.
And it's fine?
It's fine.
Okay. Do you know what the mode of failure was?
I have no idea. I just unplugged it, threw it in the garage, and ordered a new one.
Oh, see, now I would have ripped it apart to find out what let out the.
I wouldn't have a clue what I'm looking for.
Where the poop stains are, as someone
like
might put
me,
it.
I think they tell you not to open them up.
That's a suggestion. They don't mean that.
Yeah.
Well, I had a good week myself. I now have air conditioning in here. Just as of today at 1500 or 3 p.m. Eastern, the guy, the HVAC guy came and did the final hooking up of the pipes and whatever. So I now can have a room that's not hot and humid. It's actually weird. And I noticed that the computer seems to blow less air. So that's nice. And most importantly, my highlight for the week was I fixed my Commodore 64. I know that's not Linux related. It's not even open source, but I did. It was giving me problems. I don't remember. I got in the IRC with it, and I stopped using it because it kept freezing up on me. And I'm like, oh no, something's going wrong. I tried doing diagnostics on it, and I couldn't find the fault. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's fine. Then I use it, and it frees up. And so I got on a Facebook group. Because of all places. Don't tell anybody. Keep this between you three. And I can't count. And so I started asking questions, and they said, well, have you tried reseating the chips? And I go, nope. So I did that, and everything's fine. So apparently, sitting in the little sockets for almost 40 years, maybe they lost some connectivity, and so that was all it took. So
Well,
that was it.
that
And I
happens,
spent a lot.
Nate.
Yeah. So,
That happened.
but go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. That happened to my brother-in-law as well. He said his computer was not starting. It took about 10 minutes to start up or something. And I took out his memory and blew it out a bit, put it back in. All was fine. It's just amazing how it's just some little problem like that.
Yeah.
Just
Maybe
like an old
dust or
Nintendo 64 game. Just
Yeah, yeah. Maybe dust or something. I don't know. Dust buildup, is that possible, or I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose like maybe some like light levels of corrosion or whatever, just enough to cause things to push away a little bit, and then
I still
by
can't get
moving
over
it.
the fact that you said 40 years and it's actually accurate. Like that's
Yeah.
a long. That's a
Yeah.
really old machine.
Yeah. So I was getting it. I had some mixed success. I got a Wi-Fi modem for it. I know it sounds weird, but instead,
Did
so
they-
it what?
Is this like something somebody has to make like afterwards for it,
Yeah.
or did they? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Because I was like, they didn't have Wi-Fi and.
No. So the Commodore 64 understands how to interact with it like a modem. So you send modem commands to set the SSID and the password to the modem. The modem then takes that information, stores it, and then takes care of all the encryption for the network keys and everything else. And then it just sends traffic from the modem into the computer. So I was trying to do some BBS hopping around with it, and through the internet, and I could get an IP address and everything else. It told everything connected. It was actually really kind of funny to see my network name, fly by, connected, IP address, but I couldn't get anywhere with it. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe probably something else I have to tweak in it. But
I bet it's DNS.
it's probably DNS that's giving me a headache. So I got to figure that one out. Who knows? Maybe the Pi hole I'm running is like, whoa, what's this thing? Get it off my network. All right. So the distribution for this week was MX Linux Beta 2. So to kind of help out with the MX crew. And if I would have been smart, and I'm not, I should have contacted Dolphin and to see if he could join us. But he's a very busy guy, and it slipped my mind. So well, there you go. But I did a straw poll in the destination. I'm sorry, in the Biddle community group, which is a great destination, and about which but how MX Linux is treating you this week. And so I thought instead of making like a 10, a 1 through 5, or a 1 through 5 stars, or good, great, better, best, poor, whatever, I decided I'd be funny with it, and apparently it wasn't funny. So the first option, which the best, was holy cow, best time I've ever had. The next would have been it's been a-okay. The third was it was awkward, but I think we're understanding each other. The fourth was this number's not going to stay in my contacts list. And the last one was new phone who dis, which is like I didn't try it, I guess. Well, anyway, so the holy cow got 33%. So about a third of people took the poll, said it was the best time they ever had. 17% said it's been okay. 9% said it was awkward, but I think we're understanding each other now. And 0% was this number's not going to my contact list, which does tell me that if people tried it, they didn't dislike it. And 42% didn't try it at all, which it's understandable. It's a busy week, you can't.
Nate, you're wrong.
I am wrong. Okay.
You're wrong. But first of all, the poll was funny. I found it really funny, but that's
Okay.
me. And I chose new phone. Who this? I actually installed MX Linux.
Oh, okay.
And I chose new phone. Who this? Because I thought it was the funniest answer.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that works. So, new phone, who dis? Yeah, I thought it was funny, like, I don't, whatever. But did go over a few people's heads, and I guess I didn't think it was funny, but that's okay. I don't expect people to get me. Sometimes I don't get me, and that's good. So, I think we'll go through the exploration of how it was. So this is just the discussion by which it's supposed to be objective, constructive about this product. It's non-objective opinions are not welcome. So don't say it's garbage, but say stuff like, "I wish it had feature X, Y, or Z," something helpful. So we want to have this conversation be beneficial to those that make it. The point is to highlight the positives, but not ignore any of the lowlights of the distribution. And remember, this is a labor of love for some people, and I'd like to not poo-poo on it. So this is an exploration of MX Linux 21 Beta 2. But if you did any other version, that's fine too, really. And so how was the installation process? It was really easy to find the ISO. I just wanted to highlight that as a juxtaposition from EasyOS. This was really easy to find. It was right there on the front page. There's a click to it, and there you go. Did anybody have any issues with the installation or anything you'd like to bring up about the installation process?
I wanted to bring up something. But
Yeah, go on, Aris.
Go ahead, Colin. Go ahead.
No, you go first. That's all good.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I like the fact that you can disable services before you're done installing it. There's that option, like Bluetooth. Like I don't use Bluetooth usually, and I just want to disable.
Yeah, I think that was nice.
Sorry.
No, that was it. I was just commenting. I think that was great too.
I wanted to say that I've done a few installs, as you know, on a few of my videos over the couple of weeks. But I didn't realize that if you just did a straight out install, you could actually, there's a little slider there. You can choose how much, whether you want to have so much root and so much home. So that's a nice little slider to choose how much home you want and how much root you want, which I didn't realize that until just this weekend, because I was doing mostly, the custom partitions, and I never messed around with the straight out install, and I didn't realize you could move that slider to adjust root and home. That's quite handy. I thought it was pretty nice touch, that one.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was a little concerned because I only set like a 30 gigabyte part, set aside that much for it. So the root was red regardless, but it said give it at least 8 gigabytes and you should be good to go. So I gave it, I think, like 15. I didn't have any issues. But yeah, I thought that was a really neat way of doing things. I was kind of concerned, or not really concerned, but I wondered why they didn't give an option out of the gate to like have just one partition. I kind of feel like that's where the puck is going for a lot of distributions. And although if you'd have talked to me 4 years ago, I'd have said that's a bad idea, don't do that. But that was before I really got, eyeball deep into Btrfs. So I can't say, like today, I do everything on one partition, and I would have done a serious finger wag at you for such an idea before.
What do you mean one partition? What do you mean?
So like I have on several systems now, I just have one main partition that has root and home in it, and so it doesn't. I don't have to worry about setting how much root there is. I just let it, whatever home or use. Yeah.
What type of partition is this? What
Btrfs?
Yeah, what type of?
It's a Btrfs. The file system. Yeah. This sets all the sub volume stuff. So I just, see the in and out all the time. Great. Before they're walking on my head, in my basement. Now they just come in and bother me. So that's cool too. Anyway, yeah, and I just, it's been almost a little easier because I don't have to worry about like, because I have the snapshot thing. It does take up some space, but now I have more space for root for my home files as well this way. So that's It was way like Alan Pope actually said that's how they've been doing it on Ubuntu for a while, and I'm like, I don't like the idea, but no, I kind of warmed up to it after a couple of years. So that's just me though.
Hmm.
I guess maybe just an option would have been nice.
I'm still trying. Sorry.
Finish your go on.
I'm still trying to get my head around the fact that you're saying there's one partition and it's got root, and so
And
you're
home.
saying it's just like one partition, and inside that partition you have your root and your home and your boot as well, or whatever, or
Well, boot's
everything.
it's its own. Well, okay, I'm sorry. There's also boot. So I guess there's two partitions. There's the boot partition that for UEFI, UEFI, BIOS, whatever that stuff.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
everything else.
Although technically, not that you should, because some systems don't support it, you can have an entirely single partition UEFI supported system, but I think it would have to be NTFS formatted, so probably not a good choice.
Maybe not. Since I
Well,
guess
I used the one partition method. I did not see that slider that Colin mentioned. I just missed it. To explain my setup, I'll get a laptop and I get an external hard drive that's connected by eSATA. On the external hard drive, I've got 3 partitions for distros. And I just pointed the installer to that partition on the external hard drive and said, just install on that. So like you say, it's all installed in one partition. It was already formatted to ext4, so I didn't ask to what formatted to, and it just installed fine.
yeah, I think I want to give another pat on the back for the whole installation process was real easy to follow from beginning to end. Like there wasn't anything that was ambiguous. Welcome, Adam. How are you today? I guess I'll wait for you to get your sound
Yeah,
set
I'm doing
up.
all right. How's it going?
Great. I'm so glad you joined us.
Why,
That means that
thanks.
that means you were bored tonight or something. So that's awesome. I'm glad you were.
I was far from bored tonight, actually.
Oh, you're far from bored, and you stopped by.
Yeah,
That pushes us the notch up a little bit higher than I thought.
I'm just here for events.
Oh, okay. It was from start to end. I thought the installation process was really easy to follow. I didn't have any troubles at all. It was just very simple for me. So, but I did kind of wonder, do you think that'd be universal though? Do you think pretty much anyone could pick that up and install it? It's not elementary simple, but it is pretty simple.
I wouldn't say it's for the absolute beginner because it says you want to open the partitioning editor and it opens up gparted and a new person would go, what the heck is this? Right? They wouldn't know, huh?
But a new person might not have to do that. Can just say
No,
use whatever and then go.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying, and it's not exactly for a new person.
If you use elementary and you do a custom install, it also loads up gparted.
Yeah. I will say though that I think anybody at the knowledge level of writing an ISO to disk and booting into it is probably capable of following this installer.
I agree with that.
That's a good point. Well, that's well said, Mr. Schickel. Well said. As you snap into a Slim Jim.
Well, there's a couple of other things I'd like to mention is that the fact that when you install, because when I make the videos, I install Simple Screen Recorder, I record the videos. I like the fact that you can save any changes that you've made on the live desktop. Those changes will also be there once you boot into the fresh desktop, right? And not only that, I think I found that also, not only was my Simple Screen Recorder still installed, I think my video was still there. I'm pretty sure that was the case. So it carries over everything that was in any home folder. So that's real
Yeah,
neat,
that is good.
one.
I do think that's great. Are there other distributions that have that same ability too, where it allows you to, if on the whatever change you make on the live session, that it'll transfer over? Has anybody? I feel like somebody else does that. Maybe I could be wrong. Might be way off.
I'm not
but-
sure. Nothing comes to mind.
Well, if there is, maybe someone can leave a comment, in the doobly-doo.
I'm not sure if Puppy does that. I don't remember if it did it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't recall either. But if somebody knows for sure, I can say to it with at least 90% confidence. That would be awesome. I would like to learn a little something else there. Now, as far as the default applications, what did you think of the what was installed by default? I thought there were some things in there I was like, why are these in here still?
Can you give an example?
Yes. So there was the ADSL and PPOE configuration tool. Maybe that's still used, but most people I think would just use a router at this point if they have a modem, have a router going to the modem, whatever. I would think, but I could be wrong. And also the GNOME point-to-point protocol (PPP) that's used for dial-up modem. I'm not sure why that's in there by default. I mean, it's nice it's available for those that need it, but why is it in there as a default application? I just wonder that.
To cover all bases, Nate.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's
That's why
But
they
if
still
we're
have
choosing-
32-bit. That's why they still have 32-bit. That's why they have a slimline desktop like Fluxbox as a choice, because there's probably still many people around the world who still don't have up-to-date equipment like we do, I suppose.
I think a big part of it as well, though, is if you look at like what it's designed to run on. If you're running this all on like a USB stick and you just need to pop it into any random machine and like make it do something, that's probably why these tools are around.
That's a good
they're
point.
probably not really just for the like at home at your desktop kind of thing. I think it's to cover the other use cases.
That is good. That's a good point because it is a very good live system to do all kinds of whatever
Yep.
things. So
That
I
is a
retract-
good point, I must say.
I retract my statement. I apologize for bringing it up. I thought go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Jinda.
One of the things I did notice is that if you right click certain programs in the folder in the application menu, you can hit uninstall, and some of them don't have it. It's at random. And I don't think this is anything to do with MX. I think this is a KDE thing. And I just noticed it when I was using it, and I thought it was, I don't know, different or odd. I don't know if anyone tried it.
I think that might be for anything that you have installed yourself. I think
No,
maybe.
No,
No?
you can go right into live distro, and this is where I found it. I was in the live distro and I go, oh, they put this in and I don't want it. So I just right clicked it to hit install because I was going to install it, like you said, because it says it keeps the backups of what you did. And I was
Oh.
taking things out and I'm going, wait a minute, I can't, I think it was Digicam, I could uninstall it. But I think it was the one, something below it or something. I think it was like GIMP or something. You couldn't. And I'm not complaining. I don't think it means anything. I just thought it was odd that some of them you could and some of them you couldn't.
So if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember if this is an app stream thing or if it has to do with like a certain toggle that gets set when things get installed or uninstalled. But basically, packages can sort of declare their state in a way that app centers like Discover or App Center or GNOME software can sort of communicate with. So you can right click on most applications now that you would typically get from a software center, and you'll be able to uninstall it because that points directly to a sort of a reference to it in the software center, and that allows it to just automate the process rather than having to go directly to it. But not every application has that particular value, so that's why it won't show you that.
Thanks.
That's interesting.
Well,
Yeah, I hadn't seen that, but I use the XFCE version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I use KDE.
Yeah. So
Oh,
on
you're
that
on
note,
KDE. Oh.
On that note, I've not used MX Linux for years. It was in the early days of BDLL I last tested it. So when I went to the download page, I was highly surprised to even see a KDE version. I didn't know they did one, but I still tested with the regular XFCE.
One thing I've noticed with MX with both KDE and XFCE is there doesn't seem to be, it's not holding the Wi-Fi information after install. I've noticed on both. I've noticed that.
I think
which
they
is
used to do
not-
that in the previous release.
Yeah, it did. So we are in beta, so I suppose we have to remember that. So maybe that's just something they do during beta. I'm not sure, but it's just something I've noticed on both.
The sneaky Linux says that Puppy has the live version does the settings do go into the install version. It says it's been doing it for years, so that's good to know. So we know that Puppy. So confirm Puppy. So prophetic. Now you know. You say his name 3 times, you know. The I did like that they had HTOP as an app. I've never seen that before. So it opens up HTOP as a like a terminal, but it kind of just you click and then there you go. I think that's a great way to incorporate terminal applications into desktops, is when you just make them like an app. I know they're just sending a command to it to make it do. It's not that complicated, but it's nice to see that they did that. It's a nice little touch that says, here you go. I know you're a nerd, so this is a tool that you're going to use. So here it is, and they just right out of the gate they do that. I think that's a really nice it's a really nice touch. I thought that was well done. I also noticed that they had a lucky backup for their data backup. So they already give you the tools. There's nothing else to install, and I appreciate this for any distribution that does that. And I don't know many that do this actually, but they did give you the backup tool right out of the gate so that you can back up your data, you know, safely. And I also liked, yeah, I thought it was nice. Also, they have Webcamoid as the webcam application by default. That is my favorite. You can check out my article on Front Page Linux, but that is my favorite webcam application. It's just fun. They have like all kinds of goofy little like filters and such. Like you make yourself look like
ridiculously flexible one too, right? That lets you set like all of the resolutions and formats and stuff.
Yes, and you can even have it capture, do screen capture. You can have it do all kinds of things. So, but I think it's funny because there's a filter. I don't know if it's by default in all distributions, but Firestorm. I think I don't know if it's Marvel or DC. I can't keep these things straight. I'm sorry. Here's my nerd card. But Firestorm, like he had like fire coming out of his eyes and whatever. Well, they have a filter on there that makes you look like Firestorm a little bit when you move your head, like flames shoot out of you. It's really very funny, and they have tons of just really fun filters, and it provided entertainment for a long time for me, like a child, So those are some of the applications I thought were great. Oh, also they had LibreOffice installed. Did anybody notice if there was a way to tweak the applications on install time? I didn't see anything like that. Nobody saw that?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I was just curious if maybe that was a thing or not.
Tweak the applications.
Like if you want to add install time, if you wanted to have like not LibreOffice, if you had one of those people, one of those that wants to just have a lean mean system, I'm not going to use this for work or whatever.
Somebody mentioned, where did I see that on one of the social medias? Somebody did mention that, it might have been on one of my comments on one of my videos. They are bringing out a minimal ISO, somebody said, on one of my YouTube things. I don't know if that's true or not. Somebody mentioned.
That's cool.
I think I didn't see anything in the installer directly for that, but I do think that because the installed state or like the live state can be sort of transferred to an install state, I think it's not direct, but I think it is a way that you would be able to just sort of like manually strip out some stuff and then install it. But
okay,
I don't think the installer itself had any sort of hints at that.
Well, that's interesting. That'd be something to try out, for somebody if they want to play around with that. That's cool. Did anybody add any applications that they absolutely needed?
Yep.
What did you throw in there?
I did VirtualBox, no issues whatsoever. It even put the the group and the user for I could mount to a USB and stuff. I did install Zoom and it didn't work. What it would do is I would go to a test meeting on their website and hit test meeting. And as soon as the window came up that we're looking at right now, it would instantly close. I tried everything I can think to get it to work. So I uninstalled it and I tried it because there's how many different ways to install something today.
Sure.
So I tried using the Flatpak and it was identical to the same error. I installed I don't remember what it's called. It's, one of the things to look at your error logs because I'm lazy and I can look at them all at once. I couldn't even find an error because I think it was closing it. I went online and somebody else said it was doing it for another distro. It looked like it was a KDE thing. I don't know if anybody else tried Zoom though. Well, if you didn't, try it and see if it dies on you. Maybe it's my hardware, but I'm running MS Linux right now and it seems like it's working. I mean, knock on wood.
I installed the Flatpak, but I didn't actually go into a meeting.
Yeah, well, going
did
to a
launch.
meeting, yeah, that's what killed it. The Flatpak worked fine. Everything was working. The test worked. I could see video. Everything worked until I got to a meeting. As soon as you're in a meeting, pop, it will close.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, and I
Well,
ran
it is
tons
a
of
beta.
software. I've installed all kinds of stuff on it.
What else did you install?
Let's see. I installed what is it? QEMU. I never can pronounce that right. I wanted to play with that. I always love it until I try using a manager with it. I don't know why. If on the command line, I'm okay with it. But when I use one of their managers, I never like any of them. I installed, I don't even remember how many I installed, different ones I installed and tried. I tried a couple different managers to see what would happen because I was thinking of switching from dropping VirtualBox because why not, right? Because I can. So I installed a couple of different managers for that. I installed stuff for my 3D printer to see if that would work. Like I said, everything that I threw at it worked. KDE Connect instantly found my phone and worked flawlessly. Like I said, the only thing that even gave me a little bit of problem was Zoom. That was it. And I really can't complain. I don't think that's that bad.
Now I need to ask something. Where's this test site? Because I never knew about test site for Zoom.
Oh,
I never know how to.
You just go to Google and type in Zoom test meeting.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't
and
even
it'll
know
pop
that.
up and you'll have one guy, you sitting there looking at yourself, seeing if it works. And
Well, I don't know about that.
Could be very scary.
well, more scary for me than you guys.
I installed Systems D.
Okay.
Nah, well, I don't know if it actually installs it, but there's a package you can install. So it defaults to System D, and then I installed a Snap, and I installed Firefox, the beta channel. That worked.
That's excellent. Do you do any theme customization, Eris?
No,
Okay.
I didn't get that far.
Yeah, it's
So
2021 and we're not theming anything now, Nate. That's the status of the world.
I apologize. Right. Don't theme my apps. I got it.
Don't theme me, bro.
So what I did, well, I thought I would on VirtualBox, I thought I would try out the back ports and see how that works. So it's got LibreOffice installed by default 7.04.2. So I opened up the backports tab in the package installer and searched for LibreOffice and had this like little star with an arrow under a lot of LibreOffice options. So I checked all those off and upgraded it to the next version through backports, which is 7.1.5.2. So far seems to be working okay. So I just wanted to see how that functioned because it looks like through the backports, it upgrades the existing install of LibreOffice. So I just wanted to check that out.
That's pretty incredible, actually. I wonder, and it lets you do it for specific apps, right? And not just.
It seems to have it seems to recognize what's installed, but there's not one click for just one LibreOffice. You got to do the writer, the calc,
okay.
and this and that, because it's got a little arrow that tells
But
you
are
that
the
it's
are the
upgradable.
backports like just for the apps you choose, or is it like, does it apply to all of your applications if you enable it?
Whichever applications would be installed and whatever you want to install, I think through backports that's
Oh.
available. I think, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
'cause-
All right.
Yeah, yeah. So I just thought I would try. I had it in my mind. How do they do backports if you want to get upgraded LibreOffice? Because it was in my mind how that worked. So I wanted to check out how that worked. It was
I guess
interesting.
they probably use the Debian backports repository, right? Because there's like a
Yeah,
separate
I think so.
repo for that. I like that.
It must be only just new because I think there's not many backports when Debian first comes out because, as you know, it's all fresh and everything. So it might have only just updated, I think.
The MX installer for packages has like 4 tabs or 3 tabs. I don't know how many. Has the Debian repo, a testing MX repo, the backports, and Flatpak.
I feel like I should have opened that. I just like, for some reason, when I get into certain distros, and I think it's because like 2-3 years ago, my immediate method was to always jump into the terminal for package management. And like the last time I really used MX was like 2 or 3 years ago. So like the first thing I did was jump into the terminal and apt update things and install things and remove things. So like I really have to give their app center app installer software manager package.
MX package installer is called, and there's
That.
actually 5. There's 5 tabs, Aris.
Oh, there's 5 tabs.
It's got the popular apps. Then it's got the stable repo, the MX test repo, Debian backports, and the Flatpaks.
And what's really cool is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say what it does is it just switches on and off the backports, so it's not always on. Only once you go into that tab, it'll get what it needs from the backports, and then the backports, and then I think switched off after that. So they're not constantly on, because you really wouldn't want them on all the time. So it just gives you the choice of upgrading or installing something that's not actually within the stable repo.
And I want to just say something I think is really cool. They the Flatpak tab, when you click on it, it will actually give you the option right there. Do you want to add repository? I'm assuming it's FlatHub.
Cool.
So it immediately gives you that. I just click on it and say, and just basically confirm it, and then you're off to the races on that one. So it's a really, they made it really, forgive the pun, they made it really elementary to get it done.
It's a very ironic.
Really MX. They made it really MX for you to install it.
On that note, but going back a step, if Steve was here, he would say this. I'll say it for him. I love about MX, at least the XFCE version, is that you press the super key, opens the menu. That is just great. So I did open the menu. I started writing software to get a software manager, not knowing what it would be called. So it brought up a list of different ones. I saw MX package installer. I just used the default tab and tested installing a couple of apps, and they installed fine. But I also see that Synaptic is installed. I love Synaptic, so I'm glad to see that's there too.
That's how I know you're old. Congratulations.
I'm ancient. I'm not old. I'm ancient. Plus, I remember I also use PC Linux OS, and that's the only way really to do it.
I actually really like the fact that they have the Synaptic in there, because the YAST package manager for an OpenSUSE, it's of that era, and it's really nice for manipulating your software, like down to the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
That's just I like having that kind of access without having to go into the terminal. I guess is what I'm trying to get at, without having to go in the terminal.
And
you might have one of those.
Go
ahead. No, I'm saying go ahead.
One last thing about workflow, I love that it's default single click.
There you go.
Yeah, save the mouse. Save
You
the
know,
mouse.
Yeah.
Peter, I knew there was a reason I liked you. This really.
Yeah. As
MX
far,
MX Linux fits us.
as far as the single double click, I think right now, and this is just right now, I really like the Elementary's implementation of single click double click hybrid approach, like because one click to go into a drawer and then 2 clicks to actually open a file, so you're not accidentally opening up file after file after file.
I think that
because
makes a lot of sense, to be
I
honest.
think
Works
so,
so
too.
much better than I
Hmm.
ever could have imagined.
Yeah, so there's that too, because you can just hold control if you want to do multiple clicks, to basically not go into the folder. But anyway, that said, not a fan of single click, but to me that's not a. I'm used to that irritation of single click, so I know how to fix that. That's not a big deal.
I was going to say also under popular applications, you do have different desktop environments you can choose from as well. I don't know if people realize that, and also window managers as well. So I was surprised to see that there's no Cinnamon. I was surprised to see there's no Cinnamon desktop in there. I'm pretty sure it used to be in there, but it's not there now. Don't know why, but interesting. It's got budget.
Well, they have Budgie, so Peter would like that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They have LXDE. That's interesting. I didn't. And Mate.
No,
Very cool.
LXDE was still. I mean, I guess it's going to be in the Debian repos for a while, but
Probably forever.
that's probably.
By the way, we shall talk about Budgie later in the show.
You got it.
I know what you. Yeah.
Yeah, they actually have a really nice, as far as their popular packages, they have a lot of really nice, stuff already in there, ready to go. It's not packaged as pretty as an app center or an app store, but I mean, it's very, very functional. It's a little more like a manual transmission on automatic with push button start, but it is very functional.
How about a manual with push button start?
Really? Is
That's
there
where
such a
it's
thing?
at. I had one, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty good actually.
I will say that the whole push button start thing, because I have a minivan, a hybrid electric one, and I still can't get used to it. Like I have to have it. It's like I keep, even though I know, I still want to. I have the key fob. Like, what do I do with it? I can't.
Just keep it in your pocket, man. Just keep it in your pocket.
I got a wad of keys though.
No, what they should do is they should make the actual switch just sort of feel like the ignition area. Actually, I think old Audis used to do that. You would just put the key fob into the actual area, and it would just hold the key for you, and you can turn the key, and it would start, even though it wasn't really triggering an ignition through that mechanism. It's pretty cool. Little unnecessary. It's like they created their own problem there, but
right, yeah. But why not? That's for a future solution. Create a new problem for a future solution.
Exactly.
It's good for the engineers. Keep them busy. Jinden knows. He's an engineer that likes to stay busy. So, were there any areas of MX Linux you thought that were particularly difficult, or did it all feel very, very comfortable?
I know it. Okay, I'm not a normal user. I get that.
I know. Mm-hmm.
But like, I still have struggles when it comes to really high resolution displays. And I think this is technically more of an XFCE issue than it is like an MX issue. Like if I was using KDE, it wouldn't have been as big of an issue. But loading it on like really large resolution displays was not pleasant. The panel was tiny. Some like the window buttons were tiny, but like the titles were big, and it's just a whole bunch of weird scaling issues, and like, yeah. So I feel like it's improved in a lot of ways. Most of the stuff was fine, but it's still a struggle. And yeah.
Was there anything like in any of the MX tools to tweak that easily, or did you have to fiddle around with it for a while?
I went into the XFCE settings and had to like bump my font sizes up
Okay.
a little bit, and then yeah.
Yeah, I didn't test it on a high resolution anything, so it was okay. You said you're testing out like when you're ultra wides. You have like a is it the ultra wide that you have that like
The
like
ultra wide was actually surprisingly fine, but I think it's because it's only 1080p vertical. But I have a couple of 4K displays and a 5K
Okay.
display. Neither of those were
Hmm.
ideal.
I got a 1440 ultra wide, and that, to me this is like
so nice.
to me it's a nice it's a nice ratio for everything that I like to do. Most importantly, I can put two retro machines, like two vintage machines side by side.
Oh yeah, they had that
I mean,
right.
it's perfect. just want to put that out there.
That's the way to do it.
So then any other thoughts? So I guess an area that was difficult was the display not being high DPI friendly, I guess you could say. That'd be probably the way to put it. But with any other areas that were difficult? No. Yeah, I didn't really have any issues really per se. I mean, there was so no, I'm not a big Debian user, but that was one of the first distributions I used, so I feel comfortable around Debian. So like basically like any Ubuntu or derivative, I just felt it was comfortable for me, MX, as far as I can just get in and get on, and if I have to dig into the terminal, I know everything, so there's nothing ambiguous except for maybe the lack of systemd, but that's not a big deal because I can dig back into the archives and figure those things out. But yeah, no, I thought it was pretty decent.
Or you can add systemd like I did.
Or you
Make
can
it
add
default.
systemd, make like Eris did, and I'm sure you upset somebody by saying that. I'm sure there's like a some graybeard that's sitting in the corner crying now because you said that.
They give you the ability to start systemd from the grub menu.
Yeah, that's right. They
It's
do.
always
Yeah.
built in, but if you install that package, it just defaults to systemd all the time.
Oh, okay. That's nice though to have access to the snaps. I think that's really excellent. With any other thoughts that maybe we didn't cover that that maybe we should bring up? I have
Did
one
anybody
item.
notice in VirtualBox it was on KDE version, it lit up full screen. Copy and paste was working between my desktop and VirtualBox right away. So they must have put the drivers in for VirtualBox or something because everything was absolutely perfect. Meaning I did nothing and everything was working flawlessly.
That's good to know.
I was just surprised.
That might be, maybe someone knows that. Maybe somebody knows, but that might be like just a default thing with they pulled from Debian. Well, the other thing that I didn't know where it fit, but I thought was really awesome is the MX snapshot tool. Did anybody look at that? The MX snapshot tool. So let's say you want to create your own, create a live ISO from your distribution, your running system. So how do you set up? So for like Eris, you could set up a systemd spin or whatever automatic of MX Linux or an MX Eris version just by using that tool. I didn't actually do it, so I don't know. It might be more nuanced than that. But I thought that was neat.
So I installed systemd just because I wanted to install in Snap, and that's a requirement. Even though it's not a hard requirement, but I think the only instance of Snap that doesn't have systemd is Ubuntu 16.04. Other than that, you have to have systemd. One thing that did happen to me is I installed it twice. The first time I installed it, went fine, and then I put it up. Then I ran updates, and while I was running updates, I was playing around with the button or the checkbox that says remove the MX tools from the start menu while it was updating. I don't know if that broke it. So then I restarted, and it wouldn't boot. It says something about waiting for dev or something. I'm not sure if I broke it, but then I reinstalled it again, and the first time I forgot to uncheck the grub menu, so it took over grub. So then for the second time, I didn't install grub again, I think, or no, I did install grub again, and then what I did do is I went into the MX tools and fixed the boot repair and pointed it to my old distro, and it fixed the grub, so it wouldn't use MX anymore. With the MX tool, it went back to the old distro.
How many different options do you have in your grub menu for Linux or whatever, or different systems, I should say?
For distros, just testing things.
Something that
gotcha.
I've learned in my limited yet expansive time on Linux is that, in particular with like EFI stuff, there's three main things that will save your butt when it comes to dealing with anything regarding grub updates or like, you know, installing distros. Is that like, one, if you have separate EFI partitions, it's going to save you a lot of time and trouble. But two, if you don't want grub doing stupid things when it picks up your other like installations, there's an actual package, and I think it's OS Prober or something like that. And that's what grub uses to look for the other OSs and then create entries and like do its weird magic. If you just yoink that package out of there, it's not going to touch anything else because it can't see it. So highly
The other thing I like to
recommend.
use is Grub Customizer.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
that could get you in some deep trouble though.
It can, yes. You got to be very careful.
Yeah, Vince,
That
because
has-
because of the way my system is set up with the eSATA, I have to use Customizer quite a lot.
Yeah, I use
that-
it to move windows to the top. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's it has several different names. Grub Customizer. I think Butcherizer is one of them.
I've never used any of
Grub?
those grub tools.
I
Grub
was
is
going to say,
a beast.
I was going to say, Shickle, when it comes to MX, I tried to do, I think on video, two separate EFIs within MX because I was dual booting MX. It will not allow you to use two different EFIs. It only picks up the one only, and it'll come up with an error that there's already an EFI there, so you can't choose that next operating system to have EFI.
I have a trick for you then. It's
Oh, okay.
actually so Solus is kind of similar in this regard, where it'll sort of like be very picky about the EFI. And I actually wrote a guide on the Solus forum that covers this and how to fix it. But essentially, before you do the install, you actually go into like gparted and you find your existing EFIs that you don't want it to use. And if you just remove the boot flag from it, it doesn't stop it from being bootable, but it stops the installer from seeing that as an existing EFI.
Oh, right.
So then
Just
you can
move
create a separate one.
right. Okay.
Not shouldn't be necessary, but if you ever need to do it, that's the
Do
way
you
to
have
do it.
any resources? Like, where did you learn this information? Was it just like by trial and error?
It really just trial and error. I really, really love like file systems and like the boot up process. Those are like the two things that I'm obsessed with. So like,
I have
dual
never
booting,
heard that before in my life.
it's probably
write
not a
this down.
normal thing to like.
I can't find any paper.
But yeah.
Well, I've had about once before on real hardware, I think I wore my disk out. I had about 12 different distros with 12 different EFI partitions,
That's
and
the way to
just
do it.
booting them, just try and see how much I could push those limits. But and I think PopOS was one of them. PopOS was the one that actually guided me to the fact that the different EFIs is best, because PopOS has to have a different EFI with another distro. It will not share with anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, and things like this also, like even if you're not using system deboot, it just prevents grub from touching other grub configurations. Like, I don't know if any of you remember, but if you guys have used like Manjaro with other distributions, the Manjaro like grub would just like not accept other things, or maybe it was that like other things couldn't boot into Manjaro. That's what it was. So like, if you used grub from any other distro, it couldn't boot Manjaro, but Manjaro's grub could. So like, keeping them separate was pretty important.
I'm going to admit I know next to nothing about EFI because my Filio has Solus on it, and that's it only. So I said, okay, I'm not dual booting on it. I'm not messing that up. All my testing laptops and machines are all grub only because they're older machines.
Well, I went through a learning curve when I was doing the, I did a series, 10 videos of dual booting with Linux and Windows. And the one thing I learned was with legacy, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Shickle, but I think in legacy dual booting with Windows, it's naturally separated. And I never realized that till now, I think, because Windows in legacy mode appears to have its own boot partition. So if you choose to install Linux to SDA, to me, they appear to be separate, because this is how I run my Peppermint with Windows on my little HP. And that's never, ever, no matter how many times Windows is updated, has never corrupted my Peppermint boot.
The beginning of the disk is basically just like, this is Windows
The
domain
MD,
here. And yeah, exactly. It's kind of nice, honestly. Like, I feel like there's two phases of dual boot complexity. And like in the legacy phase, it's both incredibly simple and like sort of like safeguarded, and also like super difficult to recover if you break anything. Whereas with EFI, it can be a little trickier to do, but recovering it is way easier because of how things are isolated.
Right. And if they're kept separate from the start and from the beginning, which is what I do with my dual boot videos, no matter how many times Windows updates and decides to do an update to its boot partition, it doesn't touch Linux. It will never, ever touch Linux because they're separated. So
exactly,
that's, yeah.
Can I just say, I only learnt to dual boot in EFI because of Colin's videos. And it makes me a little sad, Colin, that you're not doing videos with 7 or 8 partitions anymore. It makes me sad you're not doing those.
With separate partitions, what, with many distros?
With like 7 or 8 of them.
Oh, yeah, well, I put that disc in retirement.
Well, maybe we need to take this to a vote that we should have Colin should do more videos with lots of partitions on drives. So I guess let's go ahead and vote on that. Yep. All right. So I guess that looks like it's almost unanimous. Close enough. Colin, make sure we your next videos you show that again.
All right, I'll try.
Right now, if we were to like go and someone were to ask, should I give MX Linux a try? What would you say? What would you say are some of the highlights or some of the unique features of MX that would tell somebody, yeah, you should give it a try?
It's the #1 distro on DistroWatch.
I don't know if I don't know if that'd be my first reason.
No, I think there's a lot of tools that you won't find on default Debian. The way you can clone your system, make different like USBs or different systems just from it. It's very interesting. So much flexibility.
Yeah, I would go ahead.
I would have to say it's an easy install, and I do like the changes they've made with the installer, or the new changes they've done. I think that's really nice, and I think it has the tools for people. Although the only thing I'd have to say is for probably a new Linux user, there's a lot of tools within MX that could probably get a little bit confusing because there are so many applications within there. But I like the way that they've done the package installer, so simplified. But it probably, and it does give you the information when you're clicking on these tabs within the package installer, it does give you the information about how this can corrupt your distro if you decide to use this, right? Especially with the back ports and all that. So all the information is there for a new user to know exactly what could happen if they mess around with it. So I think they're very transparent with telling people, especially within the installer, if you read on the left-hand side, it gives you a breakdown of everything you're doing and explains it fairly easily. So I've actually started off looking at that in my videos, and then, yeah, we've got to read this. And then as my videos go on, I've forgotten all about it. But there's some really nice information there for people to understand exactly what's going on with the installer, with inside the actual install or after or post install. They just give you all the information that's needed at the time it's needed. I think that's one of the good things with MX.
And regarding the installer, as we were talking, I installed 2 Flatpak games, no problem at all. Didn't have to set up the repo manually, which I can do, but a new person couldn't. Would have a struggle. It installed the repo, no problem. Installed the games fine, and the game went straight into the menu. You didn't have to reboot. So that's great for a new person.
Yeah, that's
great
nice.
Great for anyone.
Agreed. Yeah, I think the easy Flatpak integration and the package installer is quite nice. Would be nice if they had a snap, maybe easy installer for that too. Maybe. I don't know.
And Steve can use Synaptics.
And Steve loves Synaptics.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
No,
Well, he'll get there.
I'm a GUI guy.
Synaptics GUI. Nice GUI. It's not pretty, but it's nice. Very Spartan. I would say that they have a lot of really neat system administrator like tools that are system administrator tools. I shouldn't say like, but they are system administrator tools that are very easy to use. You know, they answer questions like how do I. They have a lot of answers. So like, how do I make a backup of my system and deploy it just like this on another computer? They answer that question very easily. How do I back up my data? They answer that question very easily. What are my cores doing? Well, they got a HTOP for that, so they've answered that also very easily. They've answered a lot of questions for you. You don't have to go out searching. They've already got it bundled in. That's why I like it. I think that's really nice.
The welcome menu is good. I like how you get the manual and FAQ on the desktop.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And link to the forums and everything else, I think. Anyway, but yeah, the link to the website anyway. It's very nice. Very well laid out. And I think that their website's very well laid out too. Very easy to navigate. You can find whatever you need. I know it's a WordPress site. So there's that. But does anybody have anything else that they wanted to throw on MX before we put a bow on this topic?
I appreciated that they improved their loading screen. It wasn't like that last release, I think. Now it has like a MX logo that spins.
Has a spin. Yep. Yeah, that is nice. Somebody took some time and really polished that up. For sure. For sure. So, because Adam's here, I had a few. I thought I'd look at some game news. Some game news I read, and I don't know if maybe Adam has anything that he wants to share in the world of gaming, because he's kind of like the resident gamer here, or he's been doing all console gaming lately again.
Yeah, pretty much console gaming.
Yeah. I think I told you I have a PS4, and pretty much it's now relegated to one game, which is the Plants vs. Zombies. I guess there's 2 of them. I don't know which ones they are, but those are pretty fun. But I was looking at the there have been a lot of releases in the last week. I think they're mostly indie gamers on either on Steam or GOG, it looks like. Mm-hmm. But the one that kind of caught my eye that I thought looked interesting was this World Box. And have you seen that? It's one of those God Simulator sandbox simulations.
I think so. Is that also like a mobile game, I believe?
Maybe. I just know it's on Linux, Mac, and Windows.
Yeah, I saw that.
One of those things sounds really
mobile,
cool.
Actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it's It looked interesting. I thought about picking it up on mobile because it looked like something that'd be fun to play while not working.
Right.
And you know, but I have seen that. Yeah, like so is that runs on Linux or?
Yeah, it does. They have a native Linux port.
Ooh.
That's why I was interested. But it's the idea of like they said like fantasy races, civilizations. They have a diplomacy system, and I think that's kind of cool.
It's
So you can
it's
either-
very like high level civilization / sim Earth kind of thing, right?
Yes, but everything's kawaii looking, you know, kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
shickles. Yeah. So it's like really,
Makes it better.
yeah. So we're gonna kill you, but we're gonna smile while we do it.
The concepts of this, all I can think of is there was this old Flash game I used to love, and I think it was called like Duck Life or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this bring Duck Life back. Can we do that? I want
Duck Life.
You would basically like you would pick a little duck as a duckling, and you would like train it to do races and other athletic events, and you would like have to feed it. And oh my gosh, it was great. I spent most of elementary school doing that on the computer in the library.
So I put a link in the YouTube chat and also in the Zoom chat. Is that it?
Cool, good old cool math games. That's it right there. I love Duck Life. Blast from the past.
That's cool. Still exists. So now you can burn a few hours of your life playing Duck Life once again.
Heck yeah.
Sounds a bit like XP pinball.
Oh yeah, Space Cadet. Yeah,
Awesome.
So
Space Cadet pinball was amazing.
I never
It is
played that.
amazing. So
Yeah, not to totally derail the conversation, but Duck Life. So so we hatched a duck because it was abandoned by its mom in the house. So now it's about this big. It doesn't have all its adult feathers, but it doesn't want to be with the other ducks. It wants to be with the humans. So it'll chase me around just all the time, just like get in my way like a cat. It's really very weird, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, but it's very funny to see it like peeping and then running at you at full tilt when it sees you. Because
That's
I mean,
amazing.
normally you don't have small feathery animals running at you unless it wants to hurt you. So there's that.
That's cool.
So it wasn't the cockroaches then, it was the actual duck that's the problem, is it?
Oh, the crickets. So those were a problem, but actually,
Oh, the crickets, sorry, not the
they're not
the crickets.
Yeah, if they're cockroaches, I would have lost my mind. We don't have cockroaches here in Michigan. At least I've not seen any outside of when I used to be working fast food. So, but that's a separate story for another time. But there's yeah, no, the ducks are funny, and but yeah, this duck in particular, and so the kids they raised it in the house, and right now it can't go out with the others. It's not big enough, so it lives in the bathtub, which is really weird.
Oh.
But it's funny because you take it outside to kind of trying to get it to be with its kind, but it doesn't want to be with its kind yet. I
have
don't
the
know,
kids named it.
Yeah, they name it. There's a couple of names, but basically the name is Ace right now. I mean, okay, I'm pretty sure it's a girl, so maybe we'll have to maybe change it a little bit. But yeah, it's got the girl pattern feathers coming in. So eggs.
I had a duck named Puddles, and it was like an indoor duck mostly. And it had its own little room and stuff, but it would just kind of like follow me around the house and just walk behind me and quack all the time. But my friend, whenever she would come over, she would the duck would just chase her around the house and like nip at her toes, and it was the funniest thing ever because she would be jumping up on the couch like trying to get away from the duck, and she's like terrified of this duck, but like it's too cute and adorable, and it's like it's
It can't
not
really
doing
hurt
any
you.
damage. No,
Yeah, they
but
can't.
it's
You can't break skin.
it's perfect. It was so funny.
Yes, as Steve said, that is quackers, or it quacks him up.
That quacks him up.
Yeah. Oh, so I was going to ask them about the those god simulators. Do you like those? Like when you build the civilizations and do those things. Are those fun games for people? Or is that too much of a time suck?
Civilization's amazing. Just
It's been
hands
around a
down,
long time.
It's a great game.
Yeah. I know it's not really the same thing, but like for a long time I was really big into Warcraft 2. It's like what 20+ year old game now.
Yeah, still good though.
Yeah, it still makes me laugh. When you click on the characters, but that's not considered a god simulator. That's something else.
Ready
That's
to
some other-
work.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I always thought it'd be funny, like if they had cruise control in your car, it would be like when you click on the ship, like yes, sir, as you wish. I think that'd be funny.
Zug. Yeah.
But those are kind of that style of game. The when you control like people or a group of people and do a thing, build stuff,
Mhm.
whatever. I've always enjoyed those kinds of games. And I always like to set up the paths of like defense, having the soldiers defend, the regions and whatnot. I've always thought those were fun games.
And you're right, because they are.
Yeah, they are. I found my copy of Warcraft 2, but every time I install it, it keeps wanting me to insert the CD, and well, I can't.
I guess you could just
So-
load like an ISO, right? Like
Yeah,
you can mount it like a CD.
Yeah, but it still asks for the CD though. I've tried doing everything
Oh.
to route it to it, and it wouldn't.
So weird.
Yeah, maybe GOG has it on like
That's a
a
Blizzard
modified.
game, so maybe not. I think actually they do. I remember they put the original Diablo on GOG. Let's see.
So did you mount the ISO? Did you try? Is that how
Yes.
you did it? You
Yeah, they
mounted
do
it?
have
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. The
10
same one,
bucks.
BattleNet Edition. That'll be worth it. I can't time suck right now. I got too many things sucking my time. When it gets cold out, that'll be one of those
Yeah.
things. Maybe I should buy it now, and then when it gets cold out, I'll lose a day or so. But that's those are fun. Those are what is that genre of game called though?
Real-time strategy.
Real-time strategy. Okay. Yeah, those are fun also.
So there's turn-based strategy, real-time strategy, and then there's what they call 4X, which are the like civilization kind of games.
Okay.
Sort of like a risk/civilization kind of game. Those are called 4X games. And then I can't remember what all four of the X's are, but and then you have the real-time strategy where you have to like order them around in real time, and then there are turn-based strategy ones that each team takes a turn kind of thing. And then there are like tactical strategy games, which are similar to turn-based stuff, but like more small scale rather than like armies. You have maybe a squad that you order around kind of thing. Good. Actually, I think it either works under Linux or it has a Linux port. I think XCOM 2 is might actually have. Yeah, XCOM 2 is a game on Steam. It's kind of expensive right now, but it goes on sale all the time. It's a tactical strategy game, so you have like a squad of soldiers that you're fighting like aliens and stuff, and so you have to like order them from like place to place, like behind cover and things like that. Really good game, and it does have a native Linux port, so yeah, XCOM 2 is pretty fun.
That's worth checking out.
I must say, and I actually don't have to say this, but I'm saying it anyway because I like stuff. I recently tried PopOS 2104, and like I've used it very briefly in the past on my laptop, but like I actually used it this time on my ultra wide, and the improvements that they've made with the entire shell is just beyond impressive. Like if you like having the full desktop thing but also like features that like tiling window managers have, Pop Shell is incredible because it takes me like almost no time at all to like open up the apps I want and have them like just immediately move into their own spaces, and like organizing them is just like literally a second of just clicking it, and it just moves into the right space, it shrinks to the right size, and then you can like stack or like tab windows where basically like you open up a window in stacked mode, and then if you open up another window, they become the same thing, and you can switch between the two, and they overlap each other, and you can make them whatever size you want, and they stick together. Basically, what I'm saying is they've done magic, and I really like magic. It's really cool, and there seem to be hints at making this functionality work on other desktops. So if you want to keep track on stuff like that, like seriously, stalk System 76 and probably Jeremy Soller on Twitter, because there are some really interesting things happening there. And like it would be cool to be able to use like whatever desktop you want. Like if you want to use KDE or if you want to stick with GNOME and still having that functionality, pretty cool. Pretty heckin' cool.
Well, that's actually a really great segue into what distribution
Our sponsor, Squarespace.
Oh, that's yeah. No. No sponsors. Just me. Just sponsored by cubiclenate.com. What should be the distribution for next week? I was looking at some of the options. Probably don't want to look at a point release for Ubuntu 18.04. That seems a little bit stale. Because it's a little bit. Not to say that I'm that guy that would call a 3-year-old thing stale, because I use a 40-year-old computer in my house still. But just not good for this. There's also Kali Linux had another release. So that's like a security forensic tool, Linux distribution. Seems more not a general use distribution, I would say. Maybe that'd be my opinion. Xtix, but I do think, I kind of feel like maybe it wouldn't be a bad to explore PopOS. I haven't seen that one probably since 2018. It's probably the last time I actually gave it a spin. How would that? What are some thoughts as far as that goes? Another option would be MicroOS, but I'm not to explore that one. And although I love to talk about OpenSUSE, I don't know if that's really ready for prime time yet. I think that's still kind of a like Silverblue. It's there, but it's not really fitted out for a desktop distribution yet. I could be wrong.
Well, PopOS is my daily driver.
So you would have a hard time exploring it, is what you're telling me.
Well, not really.
The LTS or interim release?
No, I've upgraded. I've done all the upgrades. So I'm currently running, is it 20, where are we at? 2004? 2104? 2104, I think I'm on. Let me have a look. I think it's 2104. I don't know. I get confused with all this stuff. Yeah, 2104. A Cosmic. The Cosmic desktop. So it's not too bad.
What any other thoughts as to what we should explore for next week? I mean, I'm fine with anything OpenSUSE, of course, but I want to make sure this is not just me pushing, my own personal agenda. Not Jinda. I don't want to push Jinda, but my agenda.
I mean, just because I'm running it, don't let me put it off you trying it.
Oh, no, this doesn't put me off at all. Gives me a lot.
Okay,
This
fair
way,
enough.
if I'm having trouble in the middle of the week, or if I have questions, I can just say, "Dear Colin," space, comma, comma, then space, or enter.
Well, we're looking at Steve's bird.
We have a special guest.
I see that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there birds? Oh my god, it's an actual bird. I was wondering what was going on there.
Yeah.
It's got like
That's my son, Kasdan, and that's his bird, Yoshi.
Yoshi.
oh my god.
Do you ride
Back him
Yoshi?
up. It's a diamond
It
dove.
does like the whole like bobbly head thing that birds do. That's incredible.
So do you, Shickle, now.
That's funny.
So I want to suggest as an option Unix.
What?
Unix.
Kunix?
Who
Ooh.
Who
Oh,
Unix.
Unix,
Unix.
I think it's pronounced Wanix, by the way. I know it
Is it
shouldn't be,
Wanix?
but yeah, it's really
Oh.
bad. It's really bad. It doesn't make any sense.
The Linux Unplugged guys were calling it Unix. I just listened to their podcast today.
Linux names?
Yeah, we're
can I
not good at that.
I mean, we call it Unix or Onix or what'd you call it?
Either one works. Let's
Yeah.
Wanix. Wanix.
That's also interesting.
New phone. Who next? Ah,
Who dis? Unix.
who dis?
New distro. Unix. That's interesting one too. So it's security and privacy, fail-safe, automatic desktop wide use for Tor network. Built on Debian 11.
Based on
Debian 11.
Debian 11. Oh.
Mhm.
So we've just looked at MX, which is a Debian 11 based distro. So does it matter if we do another Debian 11? I suppose it doesn't, does it?
If you really get down to the core of it, everything's based on Debian 11.
Oh, pretty much.
Even Arch is
It's-
based on Debian 11 too.
It's
don't-
just.
It's
I'm
similar
kidding.
It's similar in use case to Tails. So it's not
Okay.
like, I don't think it's going to be like anything like MX, really, even though the base is probably the same.
So this would be like a trip down a path of what some more. I mean this in the nicest way. So jokingly, but like what tinfoil hatters would typically use. So is that, could we say that?
Well, yeah, it says software that can anonymize everything you do online.
Right.
I bet that's probably got a big asterisk by it and is not citation needed, probably.
The comment was that it's a great distro to have on a USB if you wanted to do banking or stuff like that. I mean, I don't know.
So it just like eats itself every time you unplug it.
So it looks like it uses XFCE as the desktop environment. Maybe. I see the mouse.
Yeah.
So yeah, we could try this. It has a lot of Wired, The Guardian, The Intercept, Tech Republic. See a lot of endorsements. It's supposed to be convenient, along with, and also keeps things anonymous. So of course journalists would endorse this. There we go.
Makes sense.
Garudanu, is it Garudanu? I think that's the name there. Mentioned what was it? Nix OS.
Nix OS.
Oh yeah.
Isn't
that's a fun one.
that the one that's all flat packs or something? Or is it
No,
No.
it's statically. No, what how does that go? It
Statically linked.
it statically links all packages, and it has like its own package manager. You can install the package manager in other distros too. And the way you set it up, I think, is you go into this file and you put the package names, and it just installs everything for you after you do the command.
Oh,
So you can keep a list of all your programs, so you can just reinstall easily with a config file.
no,
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you can install like a million different versions of every package too.
You have a link to that?
It's
If you want to check out Linux user space, they made an episode about it, I think, too. No, they were thinking about doing it. Yeah, they were thinking about doing it in the
they
future.
should do it. I need more podcast episodes to listen to.
I'm behind.
So I put the link there for NixOS.
It's a really cool package management, format system thing. It's really cool. It's installing it can be a little difficult. Um, it's weird because like you get a GUI, but you sort of install it in the terminal. It's weird. But it's cool.
So what's the choice? Are we gonna make a choice or?
Yeah, so I guess
Is it
we'll
gonna
make
be?
it.
Is it going to
Go
be a
ahead.
democracy or is it going to be a benevolent dictator?
Well, it'll be a little bit of both. So I mean, I'm good for any of it. So do you want to go with something more mainstream, like pop, like that interests me because I haven't tried that in a while. This Unix, I find also interesting. I've not tried one of these anonymizing, everything runs through Tor network distributions before either. And then this one's also interesting because, well, like you said,
Usually the premier anonymizing distro is Tails, but I never tried Unix or Wanix. I don't know. I think Chick said that. So that's what I wanted to try. But
Like to confuse.
Yeah, let's try. That's Unix.
Unix.
Unix is distro.
Who would make sense because it's like who's sending this traffic?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm hearing a lot more leaning toward Unix.
Let's do it.
Unix.
Sounds wild.
So let's give that a spin. The Nix looks like it's gonna take a little more. I might need a little more headspace for Nix OS. More headspace.
Although Nate sounded very keen on Pop OS, I must say.
I did.
But,
I'm also
maybe
keen
next
on
time.
I'm also keen on MicroOS.
MicroOS. Okay.
I'm keen on a lot of things. So. Well, sounds great. Let's do that. Unix or Wonix. What do you call it? Onix?
Onix.
Onix. I don't know how you get one in there. Yeah, who and Nix.
Yeah.
We'll make
that makes
that
more sense, doesn't it?
It does. That's excellent. So next week we'll do that. All right. Excellent.
So one difference between Wanix or Unix, I think, since you mentioned it has the XFCE, is that Tails uses GNOME.
Okay, that's definitely a differentiation. I say Ron, what's it? Maybe Dev1 in the near future.
Dev1.
Oh, maybe he's being cute with us. Maybe.
Dev1's based on Debian, I think it was.
It's totally open source.
Hopefully they release the Buster version. I mean the Bullseye version soon.
And
is that the one that has no system D?
Oh, could be, yeah.
Yeah, they're anti-system D.
Yeah, they use run it or OpenRC instead of system D. Interesting. It's very interesting to base an entire distribution off of abstaining from a specific piece of technology. I just think that's weird, but okay. Each his own. Cool. Well, good deal. All right. Now, I was going to bring up I had some difficulty with a piece of hardware this week. I was trying to do video capture from another machine just to test it out, HDMI to USB 3. Has anybody done this before, doing video capture from another computer? Okay. So, if I use Webcamoid, the capturing of the video was buttery smooth. It was great. Not a single problem. No issues. if I
Wow.
did like other there's another application. Oh, I could use
OBS.
Zoom. Zoom would pick it up and reverse it strangely, and it looked just as buttery smooth as anything else. When I used OBS, everything was all herky jerky, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if it's this computer. So I went to another computer, exact same issues. I'm like, what is going on here? Why is the frame rate like 5 when trying to capture?
You have to
And it's-
adjust the color space for
Yeah.
the video input and then set the frame rate and resolution to match.
the color space.
Because by default, it's using like something ridiculous that it's not gonna. You could have like a Threadripper 3790X and it still wouldn't work. Yeah, because by default it's set to like I think it's like YV4
UV, yeah,
colon
420.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not gonna work like
Yeah, they
that.
changed
It's
it,
gonna
like-
eat itself.
There's like a YV12 emulated or something like that is one of the options. Try that.
Is that in
see
the,
if it-
the properties of whatever you're
of
importing?
the capture card?
Yeah.
Of
Okay.
Of the source, the capture card source.
So, okay. So, but everything else could do it, and it would automatically do the right thing to make it smooth. But OBS decided to do something like choose some loony. Because I even installed the Snap. I used the regular, from the distribution, OpenSUSE distribution OBS. And then I tried another computer and had the same problems. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here.
I think
So-
it's more so a difference in the actual like intended use of the application. So software that pulls in webcam kind of automatically assumes lowest common denominator and will use like certain color spaces, but OBS will kind of just default to using like set like this notch quality because if you need to lower it you can always change it later because it's more geared towards like studio stuff.
Okay.
So like it won't really like knock that stuff. I think the only thing that really is by default set intentionally low is the actual like encoded format color space, which is set to like NV12 instead of RGB because that would like eat your CPU. But everything else will just default to like generally highest quality without, with the exception of lossless.
This is in OBS you're talking about, or
Mhm.
this is in OBS? Yeah.
Yeah, this is OBS. So OBS is the only thing that gave me problems with it. So I was just curious as to, what I may have done wrong. So it sounds like
Just the settings. It's got to be
Yeah.
adjusted in the settings, yeah.
And so he said specifically. All right, I'm curious now. He said specifically it is the. Is it like the video format? So the YUYV something.
Yeah, in the properties for that device, you adjust that, and then that should drastically change how it performs.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So change the video format.
It is good to know because I want to get myself a capture card eventually. So if I'm having issues, that will be the problem. Good to know.
And then, so it says it'll do 4K capture. So I figured if I was doing something 1080p, that should be well within the capabilities. And then I was getting really frustrated because of that. So, and I searched on the forums too, the OBS Studio forums for something, low frame rate on a capture device, and I couldn't find anything. That's just the video format. So I got to change. Okay.
Yeah, typically, I think the reason that typically gets missed is because essentially when you plug it in over USB like that, like almost every app is going to treat it like a webcam because the type of input that it gives is basically the same as a webcam. So like when it comes to like capture card specific things, typically like any issues that you have with it, people would just associate as like an issue with the card or whatever. So there aren't usually good solutions that adjust like the input to a certain color space to this to that because nobody's looking for it.
Have you done a lot of video capture, like of things, like
Yeah.
HDMI capture? Yeah. What do you use for that? Do you have a dedicated card, like a capture device, or do you have a USB?
So I at first I was using like an AverMedia like 4K portable thingy,
Mhm.
and that works pretty all right. But then I ended up getting one of those Elgato HDMI USB-C capture cards, and
Okay.
that's been working super well so far. So
What one did you get, Nate? Just out of interest.
So I went on eBay and I sorted by price because I'm cheap, and that's how I. It was like $8 No, wait, it was more than that. I think it was like $20.
it's like
I will have to
14
look.
maybe.
Yeah, it could be.
Y-
But I wanted to do at least
There-
4K.
There's
have
a
a pass-through.
specific USB capture card. It's just like a little dongle, and it's like
Mhm.
literally the best capture card for anything because it costs like $15, and a crap ton of people started buying them because it was super inexpensive and it just worked with everything. And I really wish I would have gotten one because I can't find them now.
$22.77.
Disappointed. Oh, that's so good. Yeah.
So it's USB 3 and has for game recording for live streaming, and then it has a pass through so you can have the device keep going on to whatever else, so it passes through as well. I wanted one of the pass through, so that's why I bought that. So if I do, if I want to capture installing a distribution or something else, I can do that very easily without having to look at the OBS output or whatever from it. That was the idea. So anyway, and then something else. Does anyone here have you built PCs before, like where you bought the fans and everything else for it? So I ended up buying a couple of Noctua, I don't know how you pronounce it properly, fans to replace some stuff in this computer here because they're kind of noisy. And or one was noisy, then I added one to blow into the side of it. Oh, link to the eBay listing, absolutely. So that was with shipping, that price I gave at $22.77. So anyway, so has anyone gone into like really digging into like the fan or the cooling methods of cooling on your PC before, or dug into that? So I was yeah. So in my quest to get a quieter fan, what the thing that I thought was interesting was, based also what I know about the airflow dynamics and whatnot. I'm sure Jinda deals with some of this stuff too, with his engineering. But if you have noise, this is what I learned from when I was in refrigeration at my previous employer. If you have noise is actually energy loss and inefficiency, and because you're turning energy into something other than the actual work that's being done. So if you can hear a compressor doing its thing, that means that energy is being transferred from electricity to get mechanical use, and you're actually getting noise as an output. So that you have to actually take into account that output of noise is an energy loss. So it's an efficiency loss. So based on that, like if fan, when fans spin, whatever, if you hear noises, those are eddy currents that are going on around the fan blades, and you're hearing, which is causing vibration. So you're doing mechanical work, but you're not getting full output from that because you're losing some of the energy in noise. So that being said, that's something interesting to think about when you do deal with fans or anything else, that if it makes noise, it is an efficiency loss. So I put this Noctua fan in here, and I noticed it's quieter. It did bring down my temperature slightly, and it seems to move a lot more air. And so I thought I was pretty impressed. So I did obviously spend more on a fan, substantially more than a regular fan, but I am very happy with the output. And comparing even comparing the blade design, this is not the Noctua, but you can see, I mean, there's less surface area here that's pushing and everything else. It's interesting to see the differences and whatnot. So I don't know, I think there is something to be said for taking the time and really, rather than just throwing fans willy-nilly wherever, but actually thinking about, you know, where your air paths are and so forth, and ducting air over the right spots and so forth. But anyway, so I just thought it was that's quite the rabbit hole you can fall into if you're building something, or if you're building something, I guess. I don't know what else. Changing something. But it's definitely worth the trip. I mean, you are going to fall into a rabbit hole for a while, and you're probably going to figure out what happened in the last couple hours. But yeah, there's so many different options and fan sizes. Like, but yeah, that's a fun path to fall into. So, Steve, you were saying that you need to look into it. Are you having issues with fans now?
I mean, I probably should. I mean, I picked up some more fans for the case, try to keep it cool. I mean, I probably should have got a better fan for the CPU, but it's a pretty open case, so but it still gets kind of warm in there. I wanted to direct more airflow towards cooling off the CPU. It's real funny, we were talking about Pop OS, and I notice a big difference when I'm running Pop on my desktop compared to something like Peppermint, which is supposed to be light. The fan quiets down in Pop.
Yep.
And it
That's
gets
intentional,
pretty
by the way.
loud in Peppermint.
So,
Really?
System 76 has
Yeah,
done a lot of work to adjust fan curves on most hardware, and it works like a dream. It's honestly, their fan curves are really, really impressive, and it doesn't matter what I've used it on, whether it be like a laptop that I've just picked up, or like my desktop that I've had around for almost 5 years now. Like, it's always so much more like predictable and quiet. Yeah, they just do just such a fine job with fan curves.
Yeah, with on the laptop, I often don't unplug it. I don't and haven't gotten good battery life even when it was on here. It'll say that, you know, I have longer time, but I did notice yesterday, because I've been moving, you know, getting my system updated, because I bought a new SSD, and Pop's going to be my main system now, and you know, migrating everything over. And so I was using Landshare or some stuff on my laptop that I wanted to send to my new Pop install. And I said, I'm going to only be up there for a little bit. I ended up being up there over an hour. And the laptop still had over an hour of battery life left. And I was like, wow, I hadn't noticed that before. Even, you know, and I know, like, at one point I did install TLP. I haven't done it on Pop. But I think there's probably a few more settings, I believe, that has to be done that I know I didn't do. But, you know, Adam will, you know, will tell you that, you know, these Linux systems on a laptop won't last you a long time on battery compared to his M1. And Vince will say the same, you know, that.
All I
I
can
was
say
a
is
little more impressed because
What do you say?
Yeah, I think he froze a bit there.
Yeah. Hopefully, it wasn't just
that's
me.
why I'm not a fan of Steve.
Because he freezes up.
oh, did I freeze up?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
There
did.
he is.
Good here.
I know
Need more
time's getting on,
confidence.
Nate. I know time's getting on, but I think we were going to discuss something about Solus.
Oh, we did talk about
Well,
that, didn't we?
Why?
Well, before that, in the show notes, Nate had news of GNOME.
Yeah. Did you you want to fire something related to that?
Well, you had that in the notes first. Now I was going to follow on with Budgie.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But I don't know too much. All I know is I'll put a link into the chat that Joshua of Solus has put an announcement out that Budgie 11 will not be built on GTK. And it will also not be built on QT like Ike was going to do originally. It's going to be built on something called, and I know nothing much about this, it's going to be built on EFL. Who knows about that?
I know nothing about that.
I was hoping Chickle does. Yeah.
Yeah. So go on, Chico.
Spend too much time on this stuff. It's basically one of the most important parts of this, and I think it's explained a little bit in the write-up, is that QT was not the initial choice, in particular because of the they didn't have a desire to do C++ for everything, which is fair enough. However, the bindings for, I think, Rust it was that they were interested in doing with EFL are going to be easy to pick up and implement, which is the goal essentially. So if you like Rust, that's going to be pretty cool. Rust is pretty nice. Also, EFL in general should be fairly. It's not that it's going to be easy, but it should be fairly good to work with. Like, there's a lot of flexibility that they'll have without as well some of the potential concerns for licensing and or restrictions from upstream QT. So there's a few benefits here with going this route. So using a language that they're more comfortable with, as well as having, you know, more permissive potential licensing.
So the move away from GTK was to do something. Well, one of the main reasons was theming. Can anyone explain that?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know. Do you want to take this one, Nate?
Well, in a nutshell, so this kind of started. This is an old topic that gets pulled out of the laundry hamper and re-rinsed every once in a while. It seems like, and not out of the laundry hamper that you're constantly cleaning. This is one that gets a little bit rank. So what has happened is there's a project on the GTK side, very popular desktop environment. I'm sure you've heard of it, called GNOME. There was a group of people that said, "Stop theming our apps; it's breaking stuff." Basically, it was they were firing off at Pop! OS and at Ubuntu because they have their own themes on top of GNOME, and so some applications don't play well with it, and so it was upsetting some people. And it's an argument versus client side to server side theme, like theme and whatnot. So Plasma is server side theming. So whenever you set at the core, on Plasma, what you want your desktop to look like, it pushes it out to everything. Everything kind of pulls from that, I should say. From the server, and not really server, but anyway. So everything is served that way. So Qt, I think, in many respects, has a more consistent feel, even if the author of the application or the authors of the application didn't really take that into account very deeply, as long as using the upstream bits and bobs and whatnot. So I know like Elementary's done a lot of work on the GTK side to make sure that everything matches. So they have a style guide. In my opinion, and again, my opinion is worth absolutely nothing because I'm a nobody, but I think that what Elementary's done is a good fix for the issues of theming with GTK applications, because they actually have a style guide and everything else, so that all application programmers use the right language. That language is not the right word, but the right style sheets and so forth. Now, with GNOME, because they don't want you changing the theme, they made it more difficult for things like Budgie. And I know this is Ike years ago. He made complaints about this before he stepped away from the project, and which is why he was going to go to Qt. So the theme, because he wants the flexibility of the theme, change the theme to how he wants it to look. Again, I think Elementary has done a great job of actually making that a reality for GTK widgets, but GNOME doesn't seem to be there yet, or doesn't want to be there. And I think maybe perhaps the Budgie team wants to avoid further issue with, with upstream on that, and just sidestep the whole issue, not deal with it, and then basically build their own, or whatever, use this toolkit that I've never heard of before. So
Well,
yeah.
some in the chat are mentioning that Enlightenment uses this toolkit.
Oh, what's that toolkit called again?
I've lost it.
EFL.
EFL.
Extra fantastic language.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's the Enlightenment.
Yeah.
So Enlightenment
Interesting.
use that, and they got some reasonably nice looking applications in Enlightenment, I must say.
They've been around for a
Yes.
long time too, so
Mhm.
there's some nice structure there.
Does that mean Budgie's going to use shelves instead of panels or whatever?
Nobody knows.
Budgie on a shelf.
Like Elf on a
It's
Shelf.
interesting. So are we not allowed to, do they not want anyone theming their own distro now, do they? Because I like to make it look the way I like to make it look.
So it's very, there's a few issues, but I think that there's like on a couple levels. One, there's a push from specific app developers. There's quite a few of them, but there's also plenty of app developers that maybe don't care as much, that essentially don't want the design work that they put into their app. Basically, this icon means this and this represents that, and they've designed it this way. When a distribution ships a style sheet that all of these apps automatically pull from and just get switched without any sort of QA or testing, it creates the possibility for applications to have icons that don't actually mean what they're supposed to, or let's say poor contrast issues. While typically, the pop theme is really well done and Yaru is also incredibly well done and tested, it still can break things. So on that front, it's essentially certain app developers not wanting their design to be changed and modified by the system itself. That's not saying that users can't decide to rip it out and change the style sheet, but they don't want essentially a distribution theme automatically changing their apps and then it making their apps look like they're broken. Because
Right.
nobody's gonna blame PopOS if you install an app and the app doesn't look good. They're gonna
Right.
blame the app.
Okay. I see what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And there are some changes to some of the libraries or a particular library going forward into GTK4 that essentially change how style sheets are applied. And I'm not sure what has been committed and what hasn't been, but there was a point in where it seemed like the end goal was that applications would have hard-coded style sheets, which essentially means that the distribution theme would not be able to change them. I don't know if they followed through with it, but it would impact basically everybody, right? Because GTK is used on a ton of other desktops. So it's one of those things where it could seriously increase the difficulty for projects like PopOS or Ubuntu to create a sort of cohesive experience for their users and have their own identities. But at the same time, it could also improve the experience for app developers to have their own designs not tampered with without any QA or testing. Personally, I can't really pick sides. Both I think are valid. App developers work hard to do what they do, and so do distribution maintainers. But eventually, somebody will figure it out, and we'll live. We won't die. We'll be fine. So
Right. And that's why I think that Elementary did a really good job, has done a really good job of creating those style guides so that applications can now applications can be themed. They took a lot of time to really think about this for a little bit longer than, than I thought was necessary, but obviously they did, and they actually worked out all the issues.
Remember when they didn't have a dark mode?
Yes. I couldn't use it at all, but now
That's a
I
very
think
long time.
and I think now I was able to theme it my way, but it did make things a little bit not 100%. So it's a I think with the way GNOME does it, with GTK does it, I think there are some other challenges inherent based on the underlying technology. I think with the way Qt does it, those issues are not as prevalent, but there are still issues depending on if the application developer takes the time to make sure that some of their basic style, like the basic styles that exist out there now, will work. So like if they do the breeze, if their application works with the breeze and the breeze dark, then they basically have it covered, because anything in between is a variation on those two general themes, or a high contrast theme too. So if they check it against those three, they're good to go, and all the different styles and colors that people create will likely, assuming it's a good theme, will likely work. So that's where that goes. That's okay, Dolphin. You didn't, we spoke very highly of MX, so everything's good. I liked it. I think everyone else did too. So,
last note I have
sure.
on this from Joshua Strobel's own notes. He said, in the summary, the GNOME edition of Solus will be demoted to a non-created edition and moved to a lesser position in a downloads page. So Budgie is the flagship. GNOME was the next one, but they're going to demote that.
Yeah, it sounds like the developers, the Budgie developers, are frustrated with something, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it.
So, that whole blog explains it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this change to Solus will actually give Budgie a chance or an opportunity to have people write more applets for the Solus Budgie, because Ubuntu Budgie have done that, but Solus won't use Python. So I'm hoping that might lift their desktop applets availability a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm in a position with Solus to actually do testing ISOs before they're released to the public. So I'll be testing the Budgie ones when they eventually do come out.
Nice.
Push comes to a shove, I could happily move to Solus Plasma.
I think it'll probably be fine. I mean, if they're going to move to EFL, it makes me think of a music group, and I don't know why. If they do that, it's probably going to, I'm sure they're going to probably map it out pretty well before they just do it. I'm sure there's probably been a lot of foundational work done already on it. So.
Yeah, Steve, you
they're
got
very
it.
methodical. Yeah.
ELO.
I would say, I think honestly, while the hardship going on is definitely not ideal, I think that it will also create some really good things. Maybe there's obviously conflict between people who use GTK and people who develop GTK and like decide on which direction it goes. Maybe not everybody has to use GTK. As much as I love GTK and I prefer it over everything else, there are a lot of options, and it sucks, changing everything. But I'm also very excited to see what people can make with other technologies. People can be really creative, so this might actually end up being a good thing for a lot of people.
We'll see how Ubuntu Budgie changes.
Yeah. It'll be very interesting to see what shakes out, and I think that whenever this is released, we definitely have to give this a spin here on Biddle, because I would be very interested in seeing what they do. So I actually, honestly, I didn't realize that there's I knew there are other toolkits, but I kind of thought it basically came down to a 2-horse race And so apparently there is a third horse. There's probably more horses than that, and I just don't know. And so that's my homework for this week. I'm going to look up all the different
All the horses.
all the horses. Cool. Well, we are
Actually,
past time.
Joshua also mentioned one called ICED, ICED. That's another toolkit.
I mean, there was also the really old ones, the motif toolkit from back from the CDE days. Golly, those icons are ugly. But very high contrast, so there is that. All right, so we're definitely over time, but go around the horn, and if anyone's got anything else that they want to contribute before we close up shop for the night. Colin, last word.
Yep. Okay, looking forward to trying Wanix or Hunix.
Whichever
Whichever one it's called, whichever you prefer. Thank you for this night. It's always great to be here, and it's great that you put it on for us. And thanks, Rocco, for originally creating this great Linux space for us. So everybody have a great week, and see you next week. Take care.
All right, thank you very much, Colin. And also remember, we did vote on making sure you have a very robust grub list for next video. So
yeah, I'll work on that.
We're expecting you to comply. Schickel, thanks for being here. Last word.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun, as always. It's good to see all of you, hear all of you. Kind of wish I could do it more. I use Elementary OS. I'm just shamelessly plugging them because I like their stuff. But if you haven't tried it, you should probably do that because it's cool.
There's no shame in your game. But really, thanks for being here. I appreciate your contributions to the conversation. So, Peter.
I just love being here. Great hangout, great guys, great fun. So thank you.
Well, thanks for being here, and thanks for those contributions into the list there. I forgot to go back to it, so my bad, but I'm glad you brought it up. So thank you very much. Jinda, last word.
Thanks everybody, and I'd like to thank MX Linux for making such a great distro. It's fantastic. See you guys next week.
You're here. Thank you so much for being here, Jinda. Vince, the man from down under, the other man from down under.
Yeah, the other one. Thanks, Nate, everyone, for being here as well, and especially Rocco. Thanks for bringing us all together. This is fantastic. I've got a little plug, if I may.
Absolutely.
It's mainly for people who are in the Asia Pacific region, and anyone else who's a night owl as well. Next weekend, it's the very first UbuCon Asia that's happening on the September the 25th and 26th. It's the very first Ubuntu conference in Asia. And I'm really pumped and excited for it. There's heaps of talks going on. There's not just there's obviously talks on Ubuntu, but there's talks on a whole lot of other stuff as well, like Raspberry Pis and learning Bash and stuff. So anyway, I've been helping a little bit with their marketing. So this is my bit. So look into it. I'll put a link in the chat.
Excellent. I was going to say, could you put a link in the chat?
Yeah.
And also maybe if you could, like in the middle Telegram, maybe pin something there, a message in there too, just to so people can check that out.
Will do.
That'd be awesome. Hey, thank you very much for being here, and thank you very much for bringing that up because I love the different community stuff going on there. It's things to check out, So I appreciate that. Adam, last word.
Thanks for inviting me, Nate, and thanks to everybody else for showing up. It's fun to see you guys, and I don't know, it's just cool to hang out with nerds. We're cool people.
Nerds are cool people.
We are.
I agree, and I'm glad you're here. So thanks for being here, Adam. I appreciate it. I had some. I always have some game stuff that's kind of in my list of things I'm looking at. So that's kind of why I hit you up earlier to see if I can bounce some stuff off you. But
sounds good.
But so I'll probably do that again next week because I usually catch something in the news and in the feed. So thank you for being here.
Good times.
Steve.
Nate, It'll be interesting to try the distribution that runs the TARDIS.
Yes.
Okay. And yes, thanks to Rocco and Nate for carrying on the tradition and giving us something to do on a Saturday night.
Well,
Thank
it's
you,
fun.
buddy.
And especially as it gets cold out and you can't do those outdoorsy things, people might be, more people might contribute, might hang out with us. So, can add to our group of scallywags. All right, and so I want to thank you all for being here. If you want more information on me, you can go to cubiclenate.com. I have a Noodlings podcast that I sometimes do, and also DLN Extend, so more of my another podcast that I'm part of, and also the Other Side Podcast Network. There's Yannick from the Frenchman from Switzerland, or is it the Swiss man from Frenchland? Wait, no. Do a Maker's Corner podcast. I have to edit the last one yet, so it can go out this week. But anyway, I want to thank all of you for joining in both the Zoom meeting and the YouTube streams. Rocco again for starting the BDLL community. Eric, once again, for the use of a Zoom account, because I am too cheap to buy my own. And everyone involved in making all of these awesome tools that we use possible. Because Linux really puts the personal back in a personal computer. So until next time, see yas.
Bye, y'all.
Good night, good morning, good afternoon, everybody.
Bye.
And I think we're off.